Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I thought today we would talk about the Badger. The reason for this is because we ended up spading it yesterday. Took a whole day on the 12-hour stream that we're doing for the Twitch drops. By the way, if you want to get your Twitch drops, make sure to come along today. We are going to be doing basically big old streams every day this week just to give you access to the drops. So, the Badger, what is this? Well, what it is a very, very big vehicle, which unfortunately doesn't have a lot of positives compared to a lot of the other machines that it faces. It's a light vehicle, to say the least. It's based on the Patria chassis, which generally the Patria chassis isn't too bad. The major issue in-game is it is incredibly lightly armored, and also it's huge. So it means whenever you're wandering around the battlefield, it's very easy to tell where you are. The other thing is, around this BR, most light tanks are not these huge behemoths. They're actually quite small. Stuff like the Baglet Panzer, the TAM, which is the same size as most MBTs. Then you've got the BMDs and the BMPs, which of course are very short. Whereas the Badger decides it's going to be the opposite, since it's an IFV and can carry a bunch of additional soldiers in it. It is absolutely massive. So this vehicle already has a negative in that front. You are very, very hard to miss, and at the same time, one of the interesting things is it does have an updated DM in it, which means that all of it is modeled in a pretty high kind of detailed way, but this also means it's very easy to kill, because wherever you shoot the vehicle, there is something that will go pop. You want to shoot it in the booty? Well, guess what? That's where the additional ammo is stored. So if you actually hit that ammo, the thing does explode. You want to hit it in the turret where the two crew are? Well, guess what? You also have the first stage ammo storage there. So that also will make you pop. You want to hit below the turret? Well, guess what? There's even more ammo, which is stored there, which will also make you pop. Then if you hit this thing in the front, you'll destroy the engine, the two crew members, and also you'll get the guys in the turrets, because there's this rolled homogeneous armor 5mm piece, which seems to only exist to be there to be able to set off rounds and make sure that all of them hit everything in the turret. So the fact that it's big is a problem. The fact that it has no armor is another problem. But the fact that you can shoot this thing anywhere and basically do crippling, if not critical and deadly damage, is the biggest problem. A lot of these kind of large vehicles have pretty big holes in them. When you have a look at like the Puma, for example, even with the updated DM, there's a lot of places you can shoot the Puma and you won't really do too much to it. So it's quite easy to hide those areas. When it comes to stuff like the Class 3P, for example, another massive vehicle, it is quite easy to hide the areas where you struggle with, so you can actually make it work. With the Badger, you can't do that. Whenever you expose anything, especially your turret, which you're obviously going to use to try and take people out, they can just one-shot you, because if they shoot you in the turret, it doesn't just kill the two crew members, it also hits the ammunition, which is in the gun, and therefore you explode and you die. So survivability, incredibly low. Let's talk about the firepower then, because it's got to be better there, right? Oh, hell no. This vehicle has a 30mm. It's like, oh, it might be a Bushmaster, right? It's got pretty decent fire rate. Generally feels pretty good, right? No, this is the Denel GI-30. The big difference between the Denel GI-30 and other 30mm that you run into, whether it's the Soviet ones or whether it's like the American ones with the Bushmaster, the fire rate on this gun is hilariously bad. It is slightly better, I think, than the standard Warriors Radan gun, but it is abysmally bad. Now, it does get bailed out a little bit by the simple fact that when you have the APDS on this, which is like the stock round, but also the APF SDS, the post-penetration effect most of the time against like actual armored things will give you a pretty good cone of damage. Against stuff which is lightly armored, it won't give you a good cone of damage, so this is actually better at dealing with medium tanks from the side than it is, light tanks, funnily enough. But yeah, that is kind of like one of the little things that is nice about the 30. If you get the nice rounds, you're able to get a decent post-pen effect. But the fact is, this thing's rate of fire kind of cancels everything else out that you can talk positively about the gun. The rate of fire, I think, is about 100 rounds a minute, so you're basically getting off a round every like 0.8 seconds, which if you compare it to, once again, anything Soviet, anything German, anything American, anything like meta that you will see at these BRs, it is horrifically bad. And that is a real problem. It has track RST, fantastic, but once again, very hard to use because of the fire rate on the actual gun itself. So it's just kind of sad to see. Like, I don't know how else to put it. The other problem with this 30mm is the targeting speed on the turret. I have no idea why. So my thought on the Badger was this is an incredibly modern vehicle, right? I don't even think it's in service yet, mainly down to economical issues, but it's still not in service. Why is its turret speed so bad? The turret rotation speed on this thing is aced out, horizontal, is 28 degrees per second, right? It has a vertical as well of 28 degrees per second. That's if you have a fully aced crew, and that's also at the same time if you have all the modifications. Now, if you have a look at any of the other vehicles that are around this BR, so for example, the Baguette Panzer, this thing has a 40 degrees per second vertical and a 55 degrees per second horizontal. So coupled with the fact that the fire rate on the Badger is very bad, and also it will usually take multiple shots to kill stuff because you have to like hit the driver to stop the vehicles, and then you have to hit other areas. A lot of these other meta light vehicles that you run into will just turn in time and hammer you, because of the fact that your gun doesn't reload quick enough, and also they have so much better targeting speeds. Even something like the BMP3, right? BMP3 turret rotation speed 35 degrees, the vertical guidance speed 35 degrees. All of these vehicles have much better targeting speeds than the Badger, and I just don't know why. I don't get why this thing's targeting speed is so bad. On top of that, smoke grenades. Most vehicles at this BR, if they have smoke grenades, they have a few sets, you know, maybe 3 or 4 of them. The Badger gets 2, and it only gets 4 smoke grenades, so you have 2 sets of 2. And once again, why is this thing at 9.0? Like, why? When I'm labeling all of these things, right, as just things that get you into trouble over and over and over again. And then the transmission, you're great at going forward. You can't go backwards, though. Going backwards, you really can't do. That is pretty much a death sentence if you have to try and get out of somewhere by reversing, so you're just going to have to turn around, and once again, the turning circle of this thing is absolutely huge too, so you need even more space for that. It's also something that will get overpressured easily, it'll get killed by 20mm from KPZs, and also at the same time, you are a massive cast target because, well, you're a massive target. So the vehicle just feels terrible, like, to play, compared to every other light tank that's around this BR. And yes, I understand that most of them are at 9.3 nowadays, but they are all infinitely better than this thing. And then the ones which are at your BR or around your BR, stuff like the TAM, for example, I would take the TAM over this any day of the week. The only nice thing about the Badger is you get a stock recon drone. No idea why, by the way. Is there any other vehicle in the game that has a stock recon drone? Maybe, but yeah, the Badger gets one stock. It doesn't have a modification for its recon drone, and then also it gets really, really good thermals. So what you can do is, from miles away, you can use your gunner thermals to be able to spot people and take them out, and also listen to the really nice South African crew voices once they spot a target, so you can work out how far away they are. But even then, in order to use the thermals, you need to expose your turret, and if you do that, you can die very, very quickly. So there's not really a ton of stuff to actually look at the Badger and go, wow, this is great. You know, this is really fun to play, especially since most nations right now have really powerful 9.3 lineups, which Britain just does not have. Britain has the Chieftain Mark 10. It also has, you know, stuff like the Shock Cal and also other chieftains, and then it's backed up by stuff like the Scimitar and even the Indian plane that I can't remember the name, the Marut, that can be brought in. But we did 61 battles in the Badger, 49% win rate, 79 ground kills, 54 deaths, and also 10 air kills. Most of the time, facing pretty much all the vehicles in the game, I felt like I couldn't really do anything, and I had to wait for my teammates to be able to do stuff in the game for me to have a positive impact. And that is usually a bad sign of a vehicle that doesn't have control of its own destiny. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.